So when I first reached out to Brooke, COVID hadn't started yet. We were just looking at building a direct to consumer brand that would really end up supporting a lot of the producers in the Southern Utah area. Because if you grow direct to consumer, you end up having or needing to aggregate from other producers just to keep up with volume, which is a great scenario when it's, built with integrity and egos are left aside and you're really trying to make a bigger impact, right? Like ButcherBox did $600 million in revenue last year. If that company sourced entirely from American producers, which they're all foreign, unfortunately, but if they source from American producers, the volume of love that you could spread across all of these American ranchers would be incredible, and everybody wins from that. So, this was pre-COVID, and we were just looking to build a great business that would support a lot of people that fed that ecosystem. And then, so I started with my family's ranch. My family are fifth generation ranchers. They, like Brooke's saying, they settled this area as well. Place called the Arizona Strip, north side of the Grand Canyon, about 60 miles south of St. George, where we are. And so I started selling beef for my family's operation. Well, then COVID hit, and I called to schedule my next round of slaughter for our customers because we had a growing, especially after COVID hit. People were like, "Oh shit!" and they started ordering, like crazy. And we're really just doing it locally. So I reached out to my local slaughterhouse to schedule my next round of slaughter, and they're like, "Yeah, we can get you in 12 to 18 months." Previously to that, it was like you call and like, "Yeah, we can get you in a week." It was no big deal. COVID hit and the entire supply chain just fell apart. It just crumbled. I mean, if people think back, we have such short memories. If you think back to the news clips, millions of gallons of milk being dumped in the fields and pigs being lined up along a pit and just slaughtered, and they culled the herds. All of these major disruptions were going on with our supply chain, and people just have no idea how centralized we have become and how it's just really set us up for a major possible failure in our country. I mean, on a scale that we haven't seen in decades. So anyway, I call him like, "Oh shit, what the hell?" So I start driving around the entire state of Utah, just getting our beef slaughtered wherever we could squeeze in. And then that ended up producing a whole nother list of issues, which was, not every slaughterhouse is the same. So we go to one place and they send it to me in different packaging. And what you guys are in business and in branding, people want consistency. When it shows up, they want to know it's consistent because that's reliability. Well, I've got some that's paper wrapped and some that's vacuum sealed and some that's, a rib steak is now called a ribeye, even though it's the same thing, but customers don't know all of these things. And so we just had all of these issues. So I shut it down. I'm like, the margins in meat are so slim as it is. Like, I can't be driving all day long to pick up my animals when the margins aren't there to begin with. So I took a step back, but while this was happening, I'm listening to the news talking about empty store shelves and people, it's this major dominating topic. And I'm thinking, I'm driving down this rural road and I see beef standing in the field on four legs everywhere. And I'm like, the issue is not that we don't have food in this country. The issue is that we fucked up and we destroyed our supply chain by putting it in the hands of four dudes, right? And so I just kind of had this light bulb aha
Two
moment.
of which that aren't from here.
And who are those four dudes?
JBS, Cargill, Tyson, and National Beef. Those four corporations control 85% of our beef supply chain. 85%, and two of them are foreign operated, JBS and Tyson. JBS is a Brazilian-owned company, and Tyson is China. And so
that's interesting.
That's who dominates 85% of our meat supply chain right now. So I have this aha moment. I'm like, what if we built a software that's like Airbnb, but instead of short-term rentals, you can open it and through geolocation instantly populate everybody around you who's growing and selling food direct. Because there's just a disconnect between urban and rural communication. But we rely on each other. The rural community, we don't understand the first thought about what's going through the minds of people in major cities. But that's who's buying the food. That's who is buying from me and my ranching and farming family friends. In the urban environments, they think everybody out in the country is a bunch of redneck hillbillies that aren't very bright, but they forget that that's who's sourcing that's where your food is coming from by and large.
It's also where everyone came from.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how everyone lived.
We're only two generations away from that. You know, the whoever's the most city slicker person you could ever meet is only 2 generations away from being on the farm. But that's how fast we have forgotten. So anyway, have this idea. So then I go to Brooke and I'm like, hey, I'm working on something else that I want to talk to you about if you're interested. And she's like, yeah. And I told her, she's like, oh yeah, I'm in. Let's go for it. And so that's this app that we call From the Farm.